Hello, my name is Jill Greenacre, and I played Linda in Brittas Empire. She actually had a surname, so Linda Perkins was her full name. Well, it's a good story, actually. I was on tour with Chris Barrie in a play called Totally Foxed, and he had just recently been cast as Mr. Brittas, so he talked about it a little bit. And in this particular play, I was actually playing a robot. So most of the play, I had a mask on, a robot mask. Sometimes I was doubling, and Nicola Paget was in it, and I was the robot as her, but I was never really myself. And Chris said afterwards, one day Mike Stevens had come in to watch it, who was the director of Brittas, and he said, why don't we all go and have a drink with Mike? And I was really tired that day, and I thought, I don't know, shall I go? And I thought, no, a little voice in my head said, you must go and have a drink. I just knew I had to go. So I went to the bar afterwards, ended up chatting to Mike just by chance, got on really well. We all went out and had something to eat, and I just chatted to Mike all evening, basically. And then the next day, my agent at the time phoned me and said, oh, the BBC want you to come in and have a chat about the British Empire. So I went in, had a chat, and then was offered the part of Linda. So if I hadn't gone to the bar and he'd seen my real face, not in a robot mask, I never would have got the part. So it's a story I love to tell. Linda is a wonderful character. She's very quirky, very individual. She's an innocent, really, and she's got lots of contradictions in her character. She is an animal lover, like myself. She would kill a person, but she would never kill an animal. She would go and start a gun shop with her brother. She ends up being an archdeacon in the Christmas special when we go into the future. She is very brave. She does all these extraordinarily brave things, and she's married to her headmaster of before, her previous headmaster Edward. So she's wonderfully quirky and individual and unusual, and I loved playing her. And she evolved as the series went on, you know, as you probably know if you're an avid watcher. All the location work was done. Ringwood Leisure Centre was actually Whitby Newtown Leisure Centre, and anywhere around that area. So a lot of the location work was Ringwood Leisure Centre or around the Bournemouth way. Otherwise, the rest of it was all in the studio. So what we'd do, we'd go off and have, say 3 weeks, 4 weeks location work. Then we'd go back to London, and then we'd do an episode at a time, being in the studio, and they'd feed in the location work we'd already done. So the audience, the live audience watching the recording, saw all the filming as well. So it was wonderful. We were a family. We were a family from day one, really. So we all loved each other, and we just had a ball. We really did. And it wasn't just the cast, it was also the crew and everybody attached to it. We became one big Brittas family because we ran for 7 years. And Mike was very loyal to his crew as well as the cast. So mostly we stayed the same people all those years. So it was absolutely a joy. It really was. It was quite equal, really. We all worked with each other. Often Colin, the character Colin and Linda would do a lot together, and it was always lovely that because he's so quirky and unusual as well. So we often did stuff together. You know, that's how it was written. But I think, I mean, I worked with all of them. We all had scenes together, and there are a lot of staff room scenes, which we were all in. So yeah, it was pretty equal, really. If you mean which character, which I think you mean, yeah. And if I was forced to choose, it probably would be Colin, the character Colin, because, you know, it's an adorable character, absolutely adorable. He's so sincere, the character of Colin, and he's so funny and so quirky. So yeah, if I was put under, you know, torture to have to choose one, then I would choose Colin. Otherwise, I would say everybody. It's such a difficult question now. I love them all, but there were some episodes in which I featured more. There was one in particular where I had to defend the rights of dolphins and whales and sharks, but not whales. And I loved that one because I was outside picketing for animal rights, and I had character Tim locked in a chicken cage, and that was great. And there was another episode, not the same one, when I had to do a lot of martial arts, and it was a doppelganger one, and I had to sort of, you know, do all these amazing kicks. So I loved doing that one. I also loved the one when I had to point the gun at the ostrich in the toilet as well. I mean, there were so many. There are so many, but all, you know, the extreme things that my character was asked to do, I loved it all. And when the centre was always blowing up, and I loved it when we were all like, you know, made up to look like we'd just been through an explosion. It just always made me laugh. Chris in real life is an absolute sweetheart, and he's a joy to work with. Mr. Brittas, we all, the way it's written, we all have a love-hate relationship with Mr. Brittas, but the bottom line is that we would all do anything for him. That's the bottom line. We, you know, as our characters, we would complain about him, but when it comes to it, we would give our lives for him. So that's how the structure of it worked, really. There was one episode in which Chris, as Mr. Brittas, kept calling me Jill, my real name. And I think it's because the episode was very close to who I really was. So we had to keep cutting with the live audience because he kept saying, Jill, oh, bother, I mean Linda. That was funny. I think it's because in real life I do shiatsu, and it was the episode was involving someone who did massage, I think, if I can remember it properly. So that's one memory that sticks in my mind, one of many. Well, when we got to the studio stage, we would do an episode a week, but we'd already done the location work. So if you add up the location work as well as that, then it probably was like 2 weeks per episode, I would say, if you were going to add it, you know, add up the actual minutes and hours spent. Yeah, so quite quick, but we worked in a very leisurely way. We would only rehearse in the mornings, actually. And then we'd work all week, and then we'd go to the studio on the Friday or the Saturday and do the live audience filming. So it was huge fun and not too pressured. Yes, I do. I'm very good friends with all of them, particularly the girlies. I often go and stay with Pippa. I've seen Julie. Julia is a very good friend of mine, Julie, who played Laura. Hattie and I are often in contact on Facebook, all of us are in contact, actually. Yeah, all of us. And there were many years when we'd have reunions and meet up. And you probably know we had our 20-year reunion at Ringwood Leisure Centre when it was 20 years. And then we had a 30-year reunion on Zoom during lockdown. Both of which were lovely, just to meet with everybody, just lovely. I just think it's what I've said, really, you know, that I think the joy of it was, and I think that comes across was that we were a family and we loved each other and we bounced off each other, and it was superbly written, and it's a farce on TV, really, isn't it? And each storyline was different, but there was a continuity as well, and it just attracted a huge fan base, and we had millions and millions of people who watched it and loved it and still do. So I feel immensely privileged to have been in it, actually, really privileged. Pleasure. It's been lovely to talk about it again.